Between a rock and a hard place, Achilles heel, Pandora's box, rest on your laurels. These are all expressions that every English speaker knows, but has probably never wondered about their origins. But where do they come from, and what do they have in common? Well, it's yet another thing that we can thank the ancient Greeks for. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Quarantine History. Idioms, sayings, maxims, expressions are what we use to make language more colorful and expressive and enable us to give precise meaning to our ideas. The English language is replete with them, and many of the most used and recognizable are derived directly from ancient Greek culture. Today we're going to talk about some of the most common of these and give a little bit of history as well. Because if it's Greek, then it most definitely has a history or a story attached to it. Let's start with Achilles' heel. In Greek mythology, Achilles was the son of an immortal goddess named Thetis and a mortal man named Peleus. When Achilles was born, Thetis thought she could make him immortal by submerging him into the river Styx. As legend has it, she held Achilles by his heel and dipped him into the river. So his heel was not touched by the magical waters of the river Styx, and therefore that small part of his body remained mortal and thus vulnerable. Homer's Iliad tells us that Achilles went on to become a hero in the Trojan War. Unfortunately, he was killed near the end of the war when he was shot in the heel by a poisoned arrow launched by Paris. Today, we use this expression to describe someone's weakest point. Whether in your character or physical nature, your Achilles heel is your most vulnerable spot and something that could easily be attacked or criticized by others. Next, we have the Midas Touch. Greek mythology tells us of a wealthy king named Midas. He believed that his happiness derived from his gold and even spent his days counting it. Legend says that one day the god of wine, Dionysus, passed through his kingdom and offered Midas a wish. King Midas thought for a moment and then replied that he wanted everything he touched to turn to gold. Dionysus warned him to think carefully about his wish, but Midas wouldn't change his mind. So his wish was granted, and from that moment on, everything Midas touched did in fact turn to gold. Everything, including the food he wanted to eat and even his beloved daughter, who turned into a golden statue when he embraced her. King Midas quickly realized that his wish was actually a curse and begged the god to take it away. It's a good example of be careful what you wish for. The god Dionysus felt sorry for the king and took away the curse. Today, its meaning has changed to have a more positive connotation. That is, if one is said to have the Midas touch, it means that they have the uncanny ability to be successful in any undertaking or be able to make money easily. Between a rock and a hard place. In Homer's other epic poem, the Odyssey, the hero Odysseus must endure a series of trials before arriving home to Ithaca. One of these is passing his ship through the treacherous straits between Scylla and Charybdis. Scylla was a six-headed monster that lived on a cliff, who, when ships passed by, swallowed up one sailor for each of her hungry heads. Charybdis was an enormous whirlpool that threatened to swallow the entire ship. Odysseus had a terrible choice to make, but decided to steer clear of Charybdis the whirlpool in order to save his ship. But he had to pass by Scylla, who swooped down and took 6 of his sailors. To this day, when someone is said to be stuck between a rock, or the cliff Scylla lived on, and a hard place, meaning the whirlpool, what you're saying is that you're in an extremely difficult position or facing a tough decision. You have to choose between the lesser of two evils, just like Odysseus. Beware of Greeks bearing gifts. This phrase originates from the story in the Iliad of the wooden Trojan horse given by the Greeks to the Trojans. The Trojans thought that the horse was a peace offering being given by the Greeks to end the 10-year war between them, and unknowingly brought the horse inside the city gates as a victory trophy. However, the Greeks had hidden soldiers inside the massive wooden horse as a way to infiltrate the formerly impregnable city of Troy. The Greek soldiers crept out of the horse that night and destroyed the city of Troy, putting an end to the war. So the expression's meaning today is very clear. Be careful or wary about the reasons that someone, not necessarily a Greek, is suddenly treating you nicely, and that there may be an ulterior motive behind their behavior. Rest on your laurels. In ancient Greek mythology, the laurel plant, or Daphne as it's called in Greek, was sacred to the god Apollo, who was often depicted wearing a crown of laurel leaves. In fact, laurel wreaths were awarded to the victors of the Pythian Games, which were held every 4 years in Delphi in Apollo's honor. Later on, laurel wreaths were awarded to signify other victories and honors, both in Greece and Rome. Even today, a laureate is an esteemed title, with Nobel Prize winners being referred to as Nobel laureates. But to rest on one's laurels today means that someone is so satisfied with their past accomplishments or successes that they choose to live off their reputation and not make any more effort. This modern negative connotation began being used more than 1,000 years after the decline of the ancient Greek and Roman civilizations. To open Pandora's box. The ancient myth of Pandora was the way the Greek mythology explained the presence of evil in the world. As Hesiod, the Greek poet who lived approximately 2,700 years ago, tells us, Pandora was the first human woman created by the gods, kind of like an ancient Greek Eve. Zeus wanted to punish Prometheus and all of humankind for having stolen fire from the gods, and had the gods of Mount Olympus create and then endow Pandora with all kinds of gifts, including a jar, which has come down to us today as a box, inside which were all the evils and diseases of the world. Pandora married Prometheus's brother, and out of curiosity opened the lid of the jar, releasing all of the evils and ills into the world. The gods considered this as something of an equalizer for mankind having stolen fire from them, something like an ancient tit for tat. Today, we say that somebody has opened up a Pandora's box. When we say that somebody has opened up a Pandora's box, it means that they have done something that causes a host of problems that did not previously exist. Oedipus Complex. The idea behind the Oedipus Complex is derived from an ancient Greek work known as Oedipus Rex, written in the late 5th century BC by the playwright Sophocles. The main character, Oedipus, is abandoned at birth and does not know who his true parents are. In adulthood, he is given a prophecy by the Delphic oracle, which says that he will kill his father and marry his mother. It is only after the prophecy is in fact fulfilled that Oedipus learns who his real parents are, and that he in fact has unwittingly killed his father and married his mother. Fast forward to the late 1800s, when father of modern psychiatry, Sigmund Freud, attends the immensely successful production of the ancient play. He understands that it has universal appeal across the ages, and that the reason for this supports his controversial premise that at a certain young age, children have an unconscious attraction to the parent of the opposite sex, and feelings of hostility towards the same-sex parent. Despite the fact that the theory remains controversial, the expression is universally known and used. Leave no stone unturned. This commonly used expression, amazingly, also originated from a 5th century BC Delphic prophecy. It was at the end of the Battle of Salamis, when the beaten Persian king Xerxes withdrew from Greece, but left his leading military commander, a man called Mardonius, and his elite soldiers behind to carry on in their attempt to subjugate the Greeks, something that incidentally never happened. Mardonius was rumored to have buried a large treasure near his tent, which went unclaimed as he was killed in battle. A Greek man who had heard this rumor decided to purchase the land and embarked upon his search for the buried treasure. He dug and dug, but to no avail, so he decided to do what all ancients did when confronted with a dilemma: pay a visit to the Oracle of Delphi. The oracle's reply to his question as to how he could find the treasure was simply, "Leave no stone unturned." So he followed the wise words of the oracle and sure enough, ended up finding the buried treasure. Today, the meaning is not quite as literal, but it does of course mean to do everything you can to achieve a good result, to solve a problem, or to find something, especially when looking for something lost. Under the Aegis of. According to Greek legend, the Aegis was a shield forged by the god Hephaestus and carried by Zeus and sometimes lent to Athena. Other sources say that the Aegis was the cloak of goatskin that Athena wore for protection. The Aegis bore the head of a gorgon, which rolled its eyes and made a terrible roaring sound during battle. It was mentioned in several parts of Homer's Iliad, and today one can see the Aegis in both its shield and cloak form on sculpted representations of Athena and Zeus. In modern times, it has come to take on the meaning of being under the protection, support, or control of someone or an organization. An example would be, this course is being offered under the Aegis of the university's history department. And finally, we have spill the beans. It is believed that this phrase originated in ancient Greece as the result of a system of voting in early Athenian democracy. Democracy was established in ancient Athens around the 5th century BC, and every year 500 names were chosen from all of the citizens to represent the city. For 1 year, those 500 citizens had to actively participate in city affairs, which of course included voting. A system for secret voting was established using black and white beans, or by some accounts, pebbles. The white beans indicated a yes vote, whereas the black beans, a no. The beans were placed by council members into an urn where nobody could see how anybody else had voted, because the idea was for a secret ballot whereby votes would be counted when everyone had cast theirs. If by accident the urn was overturned, the beans spilled out and accidentally and prematurely revealed what the vote had been. Today, when we say that somebody has spilled the beans, what we mean is that they've given away a secret or confessed something, often by accident. As you can see, the richness of the English language today is due in large part to expressions and concepts loaned either directly or indirectly from ancient Greek language and culture. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy my videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Bye-bye. See you next time on Quarantine History.